welcome back. This week, I speak with New York City urban indigenous royalty, Murielle Borst-Tarrant. She was born in New York City and raised in a mafia-run Italian neighborhood in Brooklyn. Murielle's one-woman show, Teepee Tales from the Stoop, showcases the woes of being the only indigenous family living on the block. Yes, there was racism, prejudice, and all the ignorance you can imagine, but Murielle also informs her audience of the importance of laughter in Native families. Murielle comes from a long lineage of performers and activists. She is carrying on her family's legacy as a playwright and director who intertwines activism within indigenous storytelling. Murielle is the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation playwright in residence at La Mama Experimental Theater Club here in New York City. Her current show, Feast of Ghosts, Wailing, will be showing at La Mama in November 6th through the 8th. Murielle has this infectious energy that made our time together really special. And without further ado, here she is, relatives. Murielle.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for being here.
I like being here.
Murielle, you are an author, a playwright, director, producer, cultural artist,
I guess
educator.
I'm
Wait, there's
educated
more.
more than anything. Yeah.
Yes, and human rights activist.
I haven't been involved in the human rights activism for a very long time. When I worked at the UN, I was very much, but I had an official title, but I'm mostly an artist, if anything, and mostly cultural, if advisor.
And a producer.
I'm more of a,
and a director.
Yes. Writer, novelist.
And so you're all of it, but I love how you're trying to say, actually, I'm not, but you are.
Well, people, yes. I get it. I can't help a lot of times. I just had a very big discussion with somebody, and it kind of shocked me because, I'm a middle-aged woman, and I have to really think about that. And sometimes I have to remember I am the oldest person in the room sometimes when my family isn't there because they're older.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, sorry.
So I thought you were going to tell me to be quiet.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4. So someone said to me, I was having lunch with someone and I said, well, I was talking about what I want to do for the future. And because I'm a 6-year national playwright for the Mellon Foundation. So you have to produce, you have to produce, you have to write a play a year. And so I wrote it.
Is that like a stipulation?
That's the stipulation.
To be a Mellon Foundation
and you work with another theater, and I'm a recipient for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And you get paid to write.
Amazing.
And your health insurance and everything.
Oh my God, stop.
Yeah, but it ends in March. So
of 2026?
Of 2026.
Work. So you're at work. You're working.
I'm working. And so what someone said to me, I said, maybe I'll go back into politics. That's what I said. And he looked at me and he said, you know what, Murielle, you are an artist to your core.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I was like, am I?
Yes.
And I said, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I am. And someone like my good friends used to say to me, why do you do all this? And I would say, they were like, really? Because politics is what you do, but you people think you're great because you're good at it. I don't say I'm bad at it, at this stuff. But I don't thrive there. I don't wake up in the middle of the night and say that. You know what I mean? If I'm working 5 in the morning, I'm working 5 in the morning on my book. I'm working 5 in the morning on the outlines of my play, or I'm talking to
you're
myself.
a multi-hyphenate. So you have all of this energy and talent busting out of you.
Oh,
thank you. Human rights activism is amazing, but there's your work, and I have a question in here too about that. But you have activism within your plays, your books. You've written books.
Yeah. I think of it this way.
Yeah.
This is how I think of it. I think that I like to tell a good story. I like for people to be entertained, whether they're touched, whether they laugh or whatever. So it's like a cheese enchilada. Okay.
Yum.
And what I do is I stick spinach in there. So you get you get all the yummy stuff and then you get the nutrients.
Yes.
And if you go away with saying, oh, wow, I never thought of it that way, a non-Indian, but from this last play, I thought was very interesting because a lot of younger women were coming because I have the whole thing about rage.
Yes. In TP Tales from the Stoop.
Tales from the Stoop.
Yes, your one-woman show.
Yeah. And then they came up to me. I think you might have been one of them who said, rage is really that way for and it's a lot of Native women.
Yes.
And it's something to talk about because we didn't talk about, we come from a generation where it was so wrong for a woman to have rage.
Yeah.
To have menopausal rage, perimenopausal rage. Let's just medicate it. You shouldn't be that way. Indian women don't act that way. Every Indian woman I know is enraged about something.
Very enraged. And the older I get, the more enraged and mean I get. And now I know. Now I'm becoming that old mean Indian woman. I'm like, I get it. My knee hurts. My back hurts.
Yeah.
The world is hard on everyone. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Oh my God, now I know. And sometimes when I speak to Luna, my daughter, I say stuff and I'm like, oh my God. I remember being like, oh my God, why is my mom like so like
mean?
What? And I'm like, oh, now I know. Her knee was probably hurting. Her back was hurting. She's like, I got to make dinner. I got to figure out what this kid wants.
And it's all the emotional stuff that goes with it, right?
Totally.
Especially with hormonal. And it used to be like, and it's so used against women. It's so used against Native women, especially Native women.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so emotional and whatever. And it's like, oh yeah, well, the woman has 3 jobs and 3 kids. So why would they be unemotional?
Well, yeah, I wonder.
I wonder why. So I think that's how I see my work. I want someone to look at it and say, wow, this is really entertaining and having a good time with it, but leaving with a speck of nourishment.
Yes.
Whatever that nourishment is. My husband used to talk about powwows being cultural nourishment for the community.
Yes.
And he'd say, and sometimes you need that nourishment. And so, when you're giving that nourishment. So I think of it that way, and, it doesn't make you saintly or anything, but, you think of it in those terms, right? And so I guess that's an activism type of way. When people talk about human rights to me, I mean, I was so deep. I worked at the UN.
The fucking UN. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you literally have the UN in your bio.
And there's nothing funny there.
No. The UN is real shit.
Yes. Real shit. Real shit used to go down. And one time it was my last year. And I was sitting with somebody from the government, from the Federation of Russia. And as I sat down, he had these 2 bodyguards. And I said, oh, you're a killer. I was like, the hair stood. I said, oh, this isn't funny. This isn't a book or a movie. This is real.
Yeah.
This is danger, girl.
Like, I might say the wrong shit
and like say the wrong shit.
Hit on the way out.
Yes. So you truly, when you realize that and when you're not, that's when you're starting to say to yourself, okay, do I want to stay here? Yeah. The woman who I worked with for the 10 years I was there, she died of cancer, Tanya Ganella Fishner, and she taught me everything. And so did Oren Lyons. I mean, they really molded me to do, and I couldn't figure out why. Why me, and I was very molded to be a diplomat. I was very molded to understand leadership, but I realized that they had a bigger idea than I did because I was like, no, I don't want to do no. And they were like, no, you'll be really good at it. Come on. I said, I don't know anything. They said, we'll teach you. And it took me, and what people don't understand, before I even talked at the UN, before I gave a speech, before I did anything, I was really basically, you just stand there before I even hit the UN for a whole year. You're learning how to write emails, how to talk to people before you meet somebody. There's a whole stuff, what a negotiation is, all of that.
Right. But you know how to talk to people. You've known how to talk to people because you are an actor, a playwright, a director, and a producer.
Yes.
And I want to go back to the beginning, if we can.
All right.
I want to go back. So we briefly spoke about the TP Tales from the Stoop, your one-woman show that I got to see. It was incredible.
Oh, thank you.
And you are a real New York City urban indigenous legend.
Oh, okay.
You were born in Brooklyn.
No, I was born in Roosevelt Hospital in Manhattan.
Okay, so you were born in New York, not even T. But I wanted to find out about how did I kind of know, but I want you to tell the gentle listeners how your family came to Brooklyn and what year did they come here?
My daughter wants me to correct this. She does right. She doesn't want me to say 1800s because then we sound like settlers. So in the 1890s, my family, is that right? In the 1890s, if the correct year is, we came from Virginia.
Yes.
And what happened was that it was illegal, the story goes, it was illegal for Indians to be married it was illegal for Indians to be married to anybody who was considered colored. And that was half black and half Indian.
Right.
Because they had the one drop rule. That's where all that started. And so it was illegal for them to be married. So they had to leave Virginia and they left everything. And then they came to New York City.
And those were your
That's
great,
my
great.
No, those
how
are
many?
my great grandmother. She was a herbalist in Virginia and she was a midwife.
Oh, amazing.
And my great grandmother was also a midwife.
Oh, wow.
And she helped deliver all my grandmother's babies in the house in Brooklyn.
Stop.
Yeah, and when they first moved to Brooklyn, there was no Brooklyn Bridge, right? And you had to take a ferry, I think. And the house was all Norwegian fishermen.
Wow.
Yeah.
The house that your family bought.
My family lived. It was the beginning. There were Norwegian fishermen. Then they left, and then the Irish came. That's how they.
So this is
took it.
1890s.
In the 1890s, I'm pretty sure it was mostly Norwegian.
And then the Irish.
It was the country. It was the country.
Yeah. Brooklyn was like the country.
It was the country. And there's pictures of them with parasols and corsets, looking like the Gilded Age.
Love.
But a lot of Native people came during that time period.
Yeah.
And we're kind of erased from this, but there were a lot of Native people who came from Oklahoma, came there and got jobs. And there were a lot of upstate New York Indians who came and got a lot. So we all, it's very interesting because they were getting work. And my family, my grandmother always had and my great-grandmother always had an open door policy for Native people who came to New York. So
even back then, the community would find each other.
Yes.
Through work, through jobs.
Mm-hmm. And it used to be as simple as we met one family. His family was in Fashion Week, actually, Turtle Big Mountain.
Okay.
His grandfather was very good friends with our family. And we met them because it was in the newspaper I think before there were Big Mountains, maybe. And they said they were American Indian family stranded. And my grandfather went into the city and got them and they stayed with us. I mean, it was like, there was a lot of that.
Amazing.
Or my grandmother would do things like she would see somebody and she would stop, and my mother would do it too. I used to get so embarrassed, but they would stop or my mother would stop and say, "Are you Indian?"
Yes,
and
that's happened to me.
And they would say yes, and she was like, "Where are you from?" And a whole conversation would start.
100%. Yes, I met Cerise Gallo. Is that her last name? Cerise. Yes.
Gallo, yeah.
Like that in a store in Brooklyn on Fulton Street. And we just started talking and it was like, oh, hey, you, da, 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 da. And I think she invited me something at the community house early on. And it was amazing. I was like, yeah. But yeah, we were like,
and we all worked at the community house. Every one of us. Every one of us worked there. We all had our jobs there. And, the community is changing a great deal.
I know.
Because a lot of people want to go back home.
Yeah.
I don't do, I don't know.
This is your home.
This is my home.
This is your home. And so your great grandmother and grandfather.
My great-grandmother. My great-great was still in Virginia. My great-grandmother was Elizabeth Ashton.
And then that's the one who came here to Brooklyn.
Came to Brooklyn.
And then your grandmother, your mother, everyone was born in this house.
Yes.
And you grew up there.
Yes.
And when you were growing up, it was a more predominantly Italian.
Prominent. It was nothing but an Italian neighborhood.
But Italian
mob
neighborhoods,
run, yeah.
Which I loved in the TV tells, just like I mean, I don't know. I always have like this affliction for like mobster and mafia movie. I don't know what that is. It's like so weird.
I remember someone said to my husband, actually, he said to me, I said to him, everyone talks about gang warfare in New York. I said, I don't remember them being any gangs. He said, what are you talking about? You were raised with the biggest gang ever. You were raised with the mafia. And I said, that's not a gang. Yes. I said, he was like, yes, those are criminals. Yeah. I'm always so shocked when people say that.
Like, no, those were guys. And I love, I was like reading your New York Post article about no one gave out tickets to in the neighborhood. And that's like in South Philly, it's still run like that. And me and my boyfriend were parked in South Philly. You park right in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And I remember we were at an Airbnb, and this guy was like, "Okay, so here's the tea." Actually, no, the Airbnb guy was clueless, but one of our cab drivers was like, "Here's the tea. The mafia still runs this area, so you're good, but." Every now and then there'll be a cop that'll like do some stuff, but for the most part, you can park there. It's totally fine. And I was like, oh, I love that. And that reminded me of your story.
I went back to my mother's house and someone got a ticket in front of I said, what's wrong with this neighborhood?
The neighborhood's going
I said, it just got gentrified. And we still act like it's the old. If someone looks at us too much, my mother will be fighting with somebody. She'll be like, why don't you mind your business?
Tell me about your mother, Murielle.
Oh God.
Now she's also a playwright.
She's a playwright. She's a director. She's the founder of Spider-Woman Theater.
Yes. Now, Spider-Woman Theater, did you kind of like grow up in the Spider-Woman Theater?
It like blew up in my living room. Yeah. My mother was an activist. My mother was, first of all, I grew up in theater because my mother started an open theater, which is a very prominent avant-garde theater in the downtown theater world with Ellen Stewart and La Mama. That's the world we all came from.
Right.
So,
and it's called, isn't that an open theater?
Open theater was a very famous theater. Very well-known people came from this. And my mother was part of Sam Shepard was from part of that.
I read about Sam Shepard.
So, I grew up with those type of people.
Yeah.
Being very free.
Very free.
And then, then the movement started. Then the American Indian movement started. My mother really joined the American Indian movement. And that's when things very, very much changed in everywhere because it was like my mother got into a car and it was now legal to be a Native person. It was our stuff was legalized then.
Yeah.
And so powwows were like a thing, and everybody went back. My mother got into a car. She went to ceremony in South Dakota. She joined AIM. We were
she full on like went.
She full on.
We AIM. We went to South Dakota.
We
did the whole stand.
Oh yeah, we were a part of the stand. We were at the BIA takeover.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Murielle.
And they showed that movie, and there's pictures of me and my sister. I was like, oh my God, and how? But what I remember, this is the danger of it. What I remember was we had these, we were very little, and we had these like shiny coats on, and the guys came down and they said, "Can you tell the kids to put it inside out because if they're snipers, they're going to shoot them." And that's a way to grow up as a Native person, right?
Yeah.
And so I say to myself, it doesn't, and that type of chaos. And so when I decided to be a mother and everything, I was like, no. It was very different. It was very different for me.
You chose to I don't want my kids to be like, having to hide under tables so they're not going to
There was always danger. There was always danger.
Yeah.
When we were at the BIA takeover, like what I remember of it is all the Indians, everyone singing, and they all had like bandettes and everything, and they were all singing their death songs.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the outlines, and they were going to die, and all of the marshals came. And they were going to shoot. And then was my mother, was Suzanne Harjo. There was a bunch of them. And they went in front. And then first of all, old women were screaming because their kids were in there and they had to organize. And then we were all packed up. So those are real memories of that time period.
That's a core memory.
Yes. And then my mother became a feminist. And a lesbian.
After the AIM?
After AIM.
Was she like, okay, these men, because I heard the men in AIM were trash.
Yes.
Some of them
That's what she told me. She was like, I asked her, I was just talking about this the other day. I said, why did you leave? And it was her and these prominent women, And I said, why did you leave? She said, it got too dangerous because of big mouth women like us. So we went back to her. It was Jeannie Shenandoah, Onondaga, the Dan sisters. They were all friends. Henrietta Mann, Suzanne Harjo. These were friends of my mother's. And and I didn't know that until I was at the UN. And there were all these women there. And I said, oh, my mom's coming. And they were like, oh, okay. And she walked into the room. She said, hey, girls. They were like, oh, my God. And they were really, and I asked her, I said, why did you guys leave? And she said, the work was in our communities.
Yeah.
You know, the Dan sisters did environment. You know, Jeannie Shenandoah went back, and she went back to her mother was a Klan mother. The dance, you know, then there was Suzanne Harjo went into legislation, and my mother went into theater. And I went into feminist theater and with her two sisters, and really like what is happening in these communities. And when they first started, it was mostly different women, different sizes, and she was very interested in that.
Yes.
And then taking the story weaving technique and using it. And the first piece was called Women in Violence, and it was about violence against women. I mean, we're talking about in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And then at one point it was like my mother would say, you know, but it was very hard because we were feminists, but we were still in marriages.
Wait, okay, and stop right there. Cut. Okay, now were you raised with your father, or did you have the?
They were both there. They didn't get along, as they say in the show. They must have loved each other at one time. I don't remember meeting those avatars. Those avatars did not exist to me. There's pictures of them in their native outfits, all in love at their wedding. I never met those people.
I'm upset. No, your
never
mom,
met those people.
Was your mom from Virginia?
No.
Was she the Rappahannock?
My mother's Rappahannock and Rappahannock. My mother's from Brooklyn, you know, and my father's from 23rd Street, and he's native.
Yes.
Could you just imagine how that went? And he was a revolutionary, and his idea of revolutionary wasn't my mother's idea of revolutionary.
Did he join AIM too?
Yes, he was the director of the AIM coalition in New York City.
Okay. Oh, okay. So he was the AIM coordinator here,
I guess. Yeah, and so,
but really, your mom was.
but no, and then it was like they never got along because she was a feminist.
Yeah,
and he, you know, and
the ego of a man.
Yes. So it was very. Yeah. It was very interesting. So finally, you know, when the marriages were over and everything.
Because that was also in the 70s was still a time where women stayed married.
Yes.
Because it wasn't like divorce wasn't just.
No, she also told me it was also, she said, one of the things I think, what she said to me too, and Lois Weaver's part of Split Bridges, they were all talking one day and she said, you know, what people forget in the 70s, it was still in law that you can rape your wife and get away with it.
Yes. Yes, people don't know that. Thank you for saying that.
People don't know that. People, you can get away with beating your wife. You know, you can get away with those things.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, and then they said, you know, I remember asking them. I said, well, what made you, you know, go into theater? And they said, well, people were writing papers and writing the books, and there was Gloria Steineman legislation, and we said, well, why don't we talk about it in theater and get it out there?
Yes.
You know. So, you know,
kind of like the spinach thing too.
Yes, it's like the spinach
you
thing.
know, it's like how we could kind of mask our activism, but not really.
Yes. But they were a little more radical. They were very, very, very radical.
Oh.
And so, but when my mother got with her sisters after they decided they just wanted to talk about Native theater, because they realized they had something very specific to talk about. And the Native community was like, you know, this is what's going on. So when they did Sun, Moon, and Feather, it's about them openly talking about their father being an alcoholic and what does that mean? Yeah. And they kind of call Sun, Moon, and Feather the prequel to Teepee Tales from the Stoop.
Oh.
Because it's about them older. It's about them telling their story. Yeah. And it's me telling my story. And how, you know, and so someone said, you can really call this the sequel to Sun, Moon, and Feather. So when they started doing that work, they started really doing Native-specific work.
Right. And also, maybe at that time, people in our community weren't talking about the alcoholism in our families that is prevalent.
Yeah.
So that's so honest.
We're still not talking about it.
And real, you know, especially like our generation, our parents' generation, they don't talk about anything therapy's not happening a lot of times for our parents. So for your mom, like that is kind of like,
but
it's very therapeutic. But
it's still, there's still things like, you wonder, like, I try to give my mother a break because I think about God, the trauma of being a woman, being brought up in the 50s.
Yeah.
Because my question used to be like, no one got married in the 60s. The most radical person in the world gets married, you.
Yeah.
And then I said, did you have any idea you were a lesbian? She was like, I did read Virginia Woolf once, and I said, boy, that made me feel like I was a lesbian. Oh well.
Yes.
What?
I love that.
And I was like, no hint at all.
Yeah, because you're like, you have no idea.
You have no idea. And then I asked about my father one time. I said, what made you marry? She said, he was a really good dancer. I said, that's your answer?
Hey, that's not that bad. I
was like, and she said, he looked really good in jeans.
He was cute.
I was like, whatever.
I mean, the bar is so low.
Well, because she was like, you have to understand, we were trying to repopulate. The way she said, we were trying to repopulate the native race. We are still a race, are we not?
I mean,
I hope so.
I live.
Yeah, because I heard something that they were saying that that native people weren't a race. Yeah. And
it's definitely still a race. Definitely.
How could we not be? How could we not be a race? So
I've never heard that.
I just heard that the other day, and I said, okay, let me take a statistic.
Yeah. Is that like a Trump thing? Like they're trying to be like, oh, that's not a race.
I never
like try to do like the Hispanic with the Latino thing, where that's not like a race.
I never thought of that.
Like the language.
What do they call it? Homolithic. We're not all the same.
Right. I know.
It's an interesting concept. I find it in this, without getting too political, in this era.
Yeah.
We have to be careful.
Yeah. Oh, you can totally be political on it.
No, for our own. I mean, we have to be careful. We have to really start thinking about that.
I know.
Yeah.
I try to dissociate
Me too.
And do my little podcast.
Me too.
Because that is like what keeps me sane. Because if I go down the wormhole, it's like
I agree with you. You could I can't do it anymore. It's like I'm interested in the work.
That's why you just work on your little melon writing assignments that you have to do.
Well, you could do anything you want. Wow. So I came across, I did 4 major. TP Tales was one. I have a new piece called The Hamlet Project, and then I have which is called The Center, and it's about a Native American center.
Yes,
and the politics of, but it's set in like Hamlet, so
Love.
And then and then we had Feast of Ghosts, which we're doing the festival from November 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Wait, this year?
Yes, this year in front of La Mama.
Oh, amazing.
So, because I originally got I wrote this because it was about mourning.
Yeah.
And it kind of changed, though, because we were like, well, if COVID continues, how are we going to do theater? And it was me and Nick Billy and my daughter, and because we're a writing team, and so usually we come in with these ideas, we team it up, and then I usually direct it and I pull it apart or whatever, and then and that's how we've been. When Kevin was alive, all of us he did the music end of it, and we discussed it before we started writing, and then we started bringing people, because my thing is ensemble work, and how does everybody work ensemble, not in dance, but like how do you work together on stage? And then that's when I realized that a lot of the times my UN work, when I was taught by leadership, I realized that being an artistic director or being a director is part of that leadership. So it's part of it's a collective. What do they call it? It's when you all agree collectively.
Yes.
And it does the ultimate decision. People get it wrong. The ultimate decision is the person who's in leadership, but you have to listen to what everybody says and sometimes I get talked to. Sometimes I want an idea, and we talk to everybody, and I stay steadfast with my idea. And one by one, Nick and Josephine and when Kevin, they say, look, if we do it this way, and you listen, you consider it, and I say, okay, let's do it.
Yes.
And it's really about that collective way
the collaboration that you have to have. You have to kind of be like, you're like, you have this best idea and you just want it to be your way.
Yes.
But you're like, okay, let me see what this collective is saying to me. And that's part of the ensemble work, right?
Yes.
You're like, I'm part of this for a reason. Or you would just do your one-woman show and that would be it.
Well, wait, even that's a collective.
Yeah, because you still...
Right, where, we had, it's with Safe Harbors. And so the other thing is also how we run administratively. The place, or not the place, the organization. And that is a big part of that because we sit down. People don't realize that I don't just say, oh, this is the program and it's going to happen. It is months of talking it through.
And wait, so Safe Harbors, you just mentioned
Safe Harbors, New York City. Yeah.
Safe Harbors, is it still Indigenous Collective?
No, the Indigenous Collective is part of La Mama. What we did was we split it up, and I said, I think we need to have an international sect of this. Okay. And I didn't want to do international work. And La Mama, what they do very well is international Indigenous work. And I said, so bring me in for North American Native things. Yeah. And then we can talk about it that way. So Safe Harbors works very closely, but also I am their writer. I am their playwrights of residence from the Mellon program at La Mama.
At La Mama.
Yes.
But you started Safe Harbors.
Me and my husband started Safe Harbors and Nick Billy.
How did Safe Harbors start? How did you begin that?
Okay, how did it start? Okay, you want to hear the name, how it started? It's a very crazy name.
All of it.
Okay. So Safe Harbors really started when we started talking about safe places. And there was only 4 of us in the room, and we saw Bloody Andrew Jackson. And we had a real fit about that. And I was getting out. Nick was getting out. Kevin, we were all getting out of this business of theater. We're going into something different. Yeah. Nick was in health. My husband was the ED. We're not, I was at the UN. We were like, we're not doing it, and then maybe, theater isn't important anymore. Then we saw Bloody Andrew Jackson. And it just I saw that. My mother got into a fist fight in the audience. You know about that?
No, but I couldn't even.
A fist fight in the audience. They close all the doors. I wind up. Wind up making the speech. And I'm like, I'm just letting you know we're not the crazy people here. Yeah. And these white people.
This is crazy.
These white people.
Oh my God.
Then they escort us to the hallway, and there were people, Indians, Native people were so upset. And this one guy who was a professor, he's yelling, "This is bullshit." Can I say that on the?
Of course.
This is bullshit. This is bullshit. And then so this one old lady says to my mother, "You don't understand. This is satire." And before my mother can open up her mouth, this guy says, "Are you actually saying to Spider-Woman Theater what satire is?" Right. So then I say, okay, so Lin-Manuel happens to be there. He comes out of the audience. He comes out. He goes, he says, "Yes, I understand. It was mayhem." Right. At the time I was a diplomat. So the police come. And so they tell them to go outside. So I go back out, and then to make it, then someone yells, "Let's kill the actors." I said, "We can't kill the actors. They just have a job."
No. So, yes.
But they were like, I said, and they were like, no, they need to take, these are all UN, they need to take responsibility for their actions. No one said that at Miley. That didn't work at Nuremberg. I said, Nuremberg? Really? This is Nuremberg?
Yes.
They were like, they need to take responsibility. I said, okay. So I go back, and the actors are huddled together. They're afraid to go outside because the Indians went nuts.
Love.
Which I always tell people, when Indians go crazy, you don't want to be around.
No.
So they're all huddled together, and I go back there and I shake all their hands, and I said, I think you're very talented. And, they were. And I said, but I think this is a lousy play. Yes. And I just want to say, I hope it closes, but it has nothing to do with but it was offensive to me. And I just want to let you know, but you're all talented.
It's offensive.
And then they was like, thank you. So Benjamin Walker, who was the star of the show, and he was with Meryl Streep's daughter at the time, we're outside, and Indians are still yelling. And he comes out, and he has tears in his eyes, and he shakes my hand, and he says, "Thank you for your words." And those Indians and all the Native people all looked at him, and he was like, "Taxi." He gets into the car. He sails off into the night. I was like, okay, we got to go. But the funniest part about all this is my husband when this all went down, my husband wouldn't go. And I said, why? He said, I'm not going. I'm not going. I don't even think Nick went. He was like, I'm not going. Because you just knew it was going to be mayhem.
Exactly.
So what I remember is I came home and my husband was laying there. He's looking at TV. And I remember he had the covers over his chest. And he goes, so how did it go? And so I'm telling this and he's laughing. He's like, oh my God. And I said, you'll never believe what happened, right? And then he says, so just another night with the Miguels, eh?
Oh my God. Yes.
There's just some things he wasn't going to do. He's, I knew that was going to be a fiasco.
Yeah.
It's like he wouldn't come with me. I don't think Nick wanted to come with me that either. I was going to go. I got special tickets to see the Last Temptation of Christ. The New York Times asked me to write it to see if it was anti-Semitic. Nick wouldn't go with me. My husband, I wind up taking my girlfriend and we're looking at The Last Temptation of Christ. And people were so upset while they're watching this. And I was thinking, but we all know he dies. This isn't a murder mystery.
I mean, what's going on?
They were, when they're whipping him and he's dying and they're sobbing. I almost giggled.
The poverty porn. It's like
it was amazing.
Like,
but I was like, but this isn't a murder mystery. We all know he dies. I don't understand. They were like, well, he was. I was like, I'm not getting into this.
Oh my God.
I'm like, so
yeah. So Kevin was like, I'm good.
I'm good.
Kevin was like level-headed. You go do your thing. I know where you come from. I know the mother. It's inside of you.
He would say things like, well, if you get arrested, I don't have money to get you out, so you can't get arrested.
Oh my God, that sounds like my mom literally used to say that to me. Literally used to say that to me. That's hilarious.
So, so it was like one of those things so that's how safe harbors really started.
So the Andrew Jackson
was
trauma. Basically kind of lit a fire under your asses?
Yes, I was so hopeful.
Love.
I was so hopeful. I said to myself when it first started, because I love musicals, I come from theater, I was looking at this set, they come out, the band music, they're talking to the audience. I said, wow, maybe this is
right?
Gonna be something,
hopeful.
Right?
Hopeful.
And then the first Indian joke happened. Then the second Indian joke. Then there was fake Indians dancing with fake little feathers. And then they did 1 little, 2 little, 3 Indians in a 4-part harmony. And at the end, and then,
not the harmony. The harmony for me.
It was the 4-part harmony. I was like, this is
okay. Wait, do I want to watch this? Can you even watch this anymore?
Look up Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson 1 little 2 little 3 little Indian song. Look that up.
10 little Indians standing in a line. 1 got executed, then there were 9. 9 little Indians haven't long to wait. 1 got syphilis, and then there were 8. 8 little Indians trying to get to heaven. 1 found Jesus, and then there were 7. Good night. Good night.
No.
You should put that in the start of this.
I should. You know what? You're right. Actually, thank you, production notes. Let's do that.
We were watching. I kept on talking about it. So what happened was like, we got together, was me and Nick, and Josephine was in high school. But also, there was also a responsibility that me and Kev and Nick talked about, because we had a young teenager, which was Josephine at the time.
Yes.
And then she was going to college, and she used to come home really upset about the racism in all of this. And I would say, wow, this is a child who grew up in theater, has a supportive family, and it can get to her.
Yeah.
What do we do? Like, what happens to the native young person who just gets plopped in New York City and just gets plopped in this racism, right?
Yeah.
And so you say, what can we do? And that was the beginnings of the talks of all of this. And then we said, let's do something. Let's do a protest piece. And it was so funny because Mia Yu just was beginning to be the head of La Mama, and we've known each other for years because she was like, do we want to do a coalition? We were really talking about, we just saw each other in the halls one day, and we just started talking. I mean, like, it was a seed, nothing. And then I said,
seed is a seed, though.
A seed is a seed, and then we just said, well, why don't we, she says, if you do, and she was like, that got me so upset. You come here, you do it here. And I said, okay. So we did it, and it just took off. And then we said, okay, we did it as a protest piece. We talked about racism. We talked about the images. We talked about, how those images affect us. How does, why is it affecting us? How long we've been putting about it, the teases and the taunts, what this could mean. Is this a human rights issue? People would say that. I'd say, well, it's complicated. Human rights is a very complicated issue to talk about in the field of in the field of performance. The only thing that you can talk about, which is because what people don't know about human rights, is that it's a collective. So it's not if you hit me, right?
Yeah.
I call the police. But if we were in this building and across the street there's a bunch of people who are being mistreated, us collectively in this building can write and do something to stop this thing that's happening to these people, because it's a collective.
Right.
And that's why that's why we changed things from, it used to be, in Native people, but now it's Native peoples. Because we whether we get along or we don't, or tribal specific or whatever, we're a peoples.
Right.
Right. So, and an indigenous is very new.
Yeah.
It's very new.
Yes.
And the reason that was really formed at the UN, because we were trying to figure out ways for us, how does our water rights, our treaty rights, our sovereignty, how is that comparable to someone from South Africa or China or South America? So taking that with those same issues, going in with those issues and saying, this is a collective indigenous people from all over the world, and we're making speeches to say, you need to change these things. That is the idea of that is when I was a human rights activist, that's what I was doing, right?
Yes.
And that is a very political. Now, there are people who say, oh, I said, no, human rights is it's political, it's legal. So you're dealing with a lot of lawyers and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was but I took all of that training and I said, if we take that, and then at the time I was working on this thing called DOD, which is a doctrine of discovery. And at the time it was coming out that the doctrine of discovery, a lot of things were based on, and you see this, things were based on, if you weren't a Christian, you weren't human, right? So, so that's why they were able to do terra nullius and get rid of and take out, because we weren't Christian. That's why the cross is on when they land, right? These aren't humans.
Yeah.
They're not Christian. So you're able to take your land. And they did this.
And take so many things from you.
Yes. So they did this everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, but if you see it, you see the DOD in many things, in health issues. You see it in New York City. And then you do see it in performance, because you see the neoclassical design, which is what everyone who does this. The neoclassical design, if it's not from Europe, then that is what's the top tier. And you're taught that storytelling came from the Greeks. This is what they say.
Yeah,
they did say. I don't know if they still say it
in school. Yeah, that's what they tell you too.
Yes,
I mean, I went
and
to school
I remember
a long time
thinking,
ago, but that's true.
And I remember thinking, oh, are we Greek? I was like, really, one of those things. Like,
Totally.
And so that is the word. So if I could change that language, right? And I'm a writer, so I really enjoyed looking at that language and pulling it apart and making. So we made a song called Terra Nullius, Terra Nullius. And we made a musical, and we did it to the vamp of Poor Unfortunate Souls from Disney.
Love.
And the two Indians come out. It was Nick Billy and Daniel Soames, and they.
So is this the first?
This is the
performance as Safe Harbors.
This is the first performance of Safe Harbors, right? We would say, and they come out and they would when they play the parody, and Nick would say, "Oh, look, they're a white man," and she goes, "There go neighborhood," and they would do.
Amazing.
And they would do a whole dance, and then Josephine came out like a priest, and she did this whole, and in the song we used the real language of the doctrine of discovery.
Right. And this is also in Don't Feed the Indians.
That's what
there's the scene where she comes out.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's where it spurred. So it went from a protest piece, from that, and then we just started we started building and looking at musicals and looking at racism and interviewing people and because at one point I was thinking, well, maybe we should embrace these images. And I remember talking to Suzanne Harjo, who worked very hard for the mascot issues for the NFL, right?
Yep.
And she's saying, why should we embrace them? They are based on racism.
Yes.
And we should not. So like at first I was like, maybe we need to collect all the, she's like, no, why are we putting money in these people's pockets? We need to fight against this.
Yeah.
And I really was thinking, oh, we shouldn't embrace the racism. You know?
Yeah.
You know, we have to kind of figure out like
we've been embracing it for years, right? Like we grew up like even me, like, oh, it's the Seminole Indians. Like we would have the starter jackets and like, the Chief Wahoo. Like we've already embraced it because it's like, oh, it's the Indian, ha ha, he he.
Yes.
But then that's still unhealthy and dehumanizing for us too. So it's like the other part of it is like, let's do what you're doing and putting a spotlight on
and making fun of
the dehumanization, but still has comedy involved.
Yes. And making fun of yourself.
Yes.
And we make, it's so funny because
the costumes were so good in Don't Feed the Indians too.
Yeah, that was Sheldon Seymour. He passed away. Yeah.
So good.
It was really, it was like, how do you go from creation? I mean, it's an epic piece. It's an epic piece. And so, we did that on tour. We did that for how many years, Nick? 2 years, maybe 5 years. It was like a good 5 years, we were doing it. And then finally we said, we branched out and we wanted to do other things. And then COVID happened. And then we started talking about Feast of Ghosts. And that's how this happened. So Safe Harbors, that is the journey. But we did a lot of...
Safe Harbors were the first thing you guys were... You were talking about safety.
Safety. And it started with safety. It started with what is a safe place for people to talk? Where is a safe place for people to create? Not just talk. Like... create, bring something in. And we just started bringing things in from other people. I have this idea. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm not here to criticize. And I say that to people all the time. Look, you want a reading? You want to go to Broadway? Okay, tell me. I'll invite people. What is the thing? So, but the name Safe Harbors, it's very interesting because I write a fantasy series, and I wrote a short story about about shapeshifters and native vampires and everything. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if they had like these shapeshifters had this like this club and they only and it had to be neutral territory. And then when somebody walked in, if they yelled safe harbor, then they would harbor them for the night and no one could kill you, suck your blood, or kill you. And they were all Indians.
That's amazing.
They were all native. So like sometimes like outside, werewolves come running in and say safe harbors. They were like, you're a European strand. I can't do anything. And then they say, well, they said safe harbors. And so they have to hold them for the night until they can go. So that's kind of how the name happened. So it was in
your book then, the Indigenous Fantasy.
The Indigenous Fantasy. It's in the it's in the 5th book.
And what is the book called?
The series is called the Star Song Carrier series, and the first book is called The Star Medicine.
Oh, amazing!
And it's just about, it's like if anyone has seen The Gilded Age, it is that, but with native immortals who are having a fight on Earth.
I love that, and also shapeshifters, vampires.
It was very hard to find a vampire story. I had to make one up. Yes. Native people do not talk about their vampires. If they're listening to this, they do not talk about vampires. And it's like one of those. And finally, I found a story in Alaska, and they tell me the story, scared me to death. Yeah. And then I said, well, can I repeat the story? And they said, no, you can only say it when the snow's on the ground. I said, well, that's a no.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And I was like, and I did a whole thing like, is that a European concept? We had to have those stories. I found a lot of werewolf stories, a lot of shapeshifting, a lot of those throughout our culture. I found more things about energy stealing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, I found more stuff, but the actual European thing. And I used to always say, wow, vampires just come here and, they just kill Indians and no one says anything. And
Yeah.
they're colonizers too.
It's such a thing. Yeah.
So that was don't you think there was some Indian vampires that said, no, you can't? So I made a whole thing up.
Oh my God.
That they have to ask permission. And
Okay, I
you
need
know.
to read that book. They have to ask
It's
permission.
on
That's
the-
so good. It's
the
like
first
still
book-
the Indian way.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And the first book is called The Star of Medicine. I did self-publish it. It's on Amazon right now. And right now I'm looking for a publisher who's going to do all of them.
Oh yes.
So that is because I see that it's in,
Oh my God. This needs to be the next film.
Don't say Game of Thrones.
No. God, no. No.
No.
But I've never seen Game of Thrones,
You
so I don't know
never
if that's being
did?
shady because I heard it's good until the end. Okay.
You never seen
You
it?
never saw it either? Okay.
He's no fine.
I want to see it, but my boyfriend loves it. Do you
I
love
read
it?
I read all the books. I read all the books when people were reading them in a room as big as this.
I love.
And it was George R. Martin. Like I used to have conversations with him, and he would say, "Just tell them about," And he would sit there and he was reading just stuff from his new book, and all those characters and
And it
stuff
was there. It
rough
was Game of
drafts.
Thrones.
It was Game of Thrones, and we read them years ago when the book first came out because it was really very.
Yeah, because they were out for a while,
They
right?
were out for,
Before Game of Thrones.
They were out for
show.
for a good 10 years,
Yeah.
15 years.
I remember
maybe?
some of my friends that were into those books telling me that.
Very, but it started because everybody is not nice. And
Yeah.
so usually they call them the sword and fantasy books, and usually there's the hero and the heroines, and and the other big influence, and I don't know if I can say, is the Mists of Avalon was one of the biggest first fantasy feminist books.
Okay.
Then there was Sarah Douglas, who kind of hit it out of the park in a way, like taking historical stuff and making it into their own and talking from the point of view of a woman.
Right. The first.
So it used to be very male dominated.
Yeah.
And what happened was that it really changed genres when women started going. So if you look into that field, it is a lot of times it's very female heavy.
Yeah.
More so than, George, there's George R.R. Martin, but he was, he does the,
Right.
But he changed it in a way too, because it was the heroes are tainted. And I'm interested in that. I'm interested in characters of tainted heroes.
Yes.
Because no one is great all the time.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you're going to, normal people, you have no place in any of the things I write.
Yeah.
I think normal people are good for everyday
I love
life.
the anti-hero.
Yeah,
I love the
yeah.
antagonist. Which reminds me of, did you like Dark Winds? Did you watch Dark Winds?
I know, I'm scared to watch Dark
Oh,
Winds.
it's so good.
I'm
And
scared to
it's,
watch it.
Danae Navajo noir.
Yeah.
But I love when we are cast and we can be the villains, we can be the bad person. It humanizes us.
And
we're a complete full human when you see us good, bad, ugly,
Yes.
all of the above, and it does that. It's so good.
And that's what I mean. When we talk human rights, that's what that means.
exactly
That we're allowed to do we're allowed to be what we need to be, not what the European society says they want us to be.
Yeah.
And when you put that structure on us, then we are talking about a violation.
Yes.
Because it goes into health programs. It goes into water programs, into water rights. It goes into treaty rights. It does something to our sovereignty. Sovereignty isn't just a word you throw around. Sovereignty is real.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of the times that people don't understand, sovereignty takes work.
yeah. Yes.
Collectives take work.
Yes.
Those things take work. You have to work with your community.
Yeah.
And you have to, it's not easy. Community work is not easy work. And I see a lot of times people going into it thinking there's a lot of power there. And I guess it could be. What I see is a lot of work and a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
And people don't realize that.
And different people coming to you with their different energies of
and you have
their
to listen.
past.
If you're in a position, I always used to say, well,
I mean, I'm sure
will you come to this meeting?
Kevin. Oh my God.
Yes.
An angel. Literally.
Days. I mean, a year. I mean, like days and days. People would call all the time because that's what you sign up for.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that is what you sign up for. And people really don't realize that. You really are signing up. You have to listen to your community.
Yeah.
And you have to, and what I always
You're
say.
a servant. You're a community servant.
And one of the things
Yeah.
I always say is that, you think I just came to these meetings because I like being bossy? I had a position. I was I was a chairwoman. I was the chairwoman of North America. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So when they say that to me, I say, oh, okay, who is the person who's elected?
Yeah.
And I always say that sometimes when people call meetings and stuff. I said, did we vote for them? I don't remember that happening. But okay.
So, okay. Now you, Kevin,
Nick Billy.
started Safe Harbors.
And Josephine. She was a
And
teenager.
Josephine. Oh, my God. Now, Kevin has seems like he's always been a collaborator with you. Was he always open to being
No.
on stage with you?
No.
How did you convince
We've been on
him?
stage. Well, we were on stage our entire lives.
Well, also
because we were powwow people.
Yes.
So, and we did shows. So that's where we got our start. Our families met. Our families go
how
back.
did you guys meet?
We grew up together.
So you grew up on the Powwow Trail.
No, we grew up in New York City together. He happened to live in New Jersey because they had.
That's right.
Because they had his family and my family, the Mopsy family, Louis Mopsy, the head of Thunderbird, is his uncle.
Right.
And my daughter, and we all were involved in the Thunderbirds at the time.
Okay.
And one of the things was that our families met each other. His grandmother and my grandfather, and I just found pictures of it. They met each other during Wild West shows. So we were show Indians. Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh, you didn't know
guys,
that?
No, I had no idea. And I'm so glad that we get to share that on the pod because
Oh, you didn't know that?
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, we were show
No, I had
we
no
did a lot
idea.
because it was a lot
That's
of
such an important part of our
it's a
history.
part of our history because one of the things is we had to survive, right? And
Yes.
our language is outlawed, our dances were out, our songs. So where would we do that? And and we had to make money. So my grandfather also did snake oil shows, right? So that's how we all know
So you guys are long
we knew each other.
term. It's in the blood.
Yeah, we've been
You're performers for your whole family.
The
has
whole
been
family
performers forever.
The whole family.
Oh my God, a long
And then
lineage.
we spread, and then we spread. We went to theater.
I
my mother,
love
my
it.
aunts
Well, yeah,
and
you
everything.
elevated it.
Yeah.
And, oh,
But
wow.
so a lot of the
So
times,
you grew up with Kevin.
Yeah, we grew
Oh
up
my
together.
God, that's
Me
so
and Lance,
sweet.
Lance Richmond, and Kevin. We grew up. The three of us grew up together. We knew each other. We were best friends. We knew each other since when we were babies. We were all in the
my
crib together. That's how long we've been. We were together. So we've been together a very long time. And so a lot of the times that's why I don't Feed the Indians anymore. We talked about it. It's never going to be the same because Kevin was really
He's so
musical
good in it,
director.
too.
He's so funny.
Oh my God. Between you and him, his just dry and his delivery, it's genius. And you're kind of like Betty Boop, like your little thing is so good. Like it's just the combination of both of you bouncing off each other.
And we
is
had
amazing.
lots of stuff. I got another one for you. Okay. Hey ya, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya. That's like Jimmy Genie. Hey ya, hey ya, hey.
That's the odd couple.
No, it's not. I Jimmy Genie. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey, hey, hey. Hey ya, hey ya, hey, you're in my life. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. Because we.
How did you convince him to do that? Because he didn't jump onto it, but
no, he didn't. I had to really talk.
You were like, okay, first you can do the music, but
Ask
actually
Nick.
stand on.
Nick,
get on the stage.
I would talk him into stuff, and he would scream and yell, and then I'd say, no, come on, and he'd say because there was a lot of times, he was my first person that when I wrote things, I would read it to him, and sometimes he'd be, "This is so damn sad." He said, "Say something happy, will ya?" I said, "What?" And then one time I said, "No, let's do it," and it was. I'll always remember this. I said, let's sing Wish Upon a Star, the Disney song. And let's end it with that. And we do it with Indian singing. And we go up into the ether. And Nick and Josephine were playing along with it. And Kevin was like, and then I said, what do you think, Nick? He was like, this is ridiculous.
I love it. I love it.
Because I said, okay, all right, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, because some things don't work out.
Yeah.
They don't, when you get them on people, and, maybe it's the same thing in fashion, you have an idea and you execute it on the person,
Yeah.
So.
Or even before you get the opportunity, it's like, no. Like, oh, okay. That was like, you're like,
sometimes
it's not just a hair show. Okay. I have to like work with a whole team. Oh, okay.
And
I got you.
sometimes things look great on paper.
Yes, exactly. That's why I love to come into the room too. A lot of times, like people are like, I want to do this, I want to do that. I was like, let's see what happens when we get there. Let's see what the model's giving. Let's see what the person, the photographer, la la la. Because we might have a mood board that has like this, that, and then we get there and it's like, oh, actually, she didn't get this. Alexander McQueen. Let's do this, and it kind of, the flow of the day can kind of help you determine like, oh, this feels better than what we.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
because that's almost the same way we work.
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't work, and then you write it down, and and you organically try to do it, and then you bring in things, and some things, like for me, like I had a whole section that I thought was hilarious on paper. Yeah, and it wasn't. And we read it, and it wasn't funny. And I thought it was so funny because I was looking at a lot of Will and Grace, and I had that type of humor, and everyone was like, "What is this?" I said, "I thought it was really funny." Okay, so and then I tried to, and it just wrote it, and I said, "Come on, let's do this." Nick was like, "Okay, it's not funny," and I was like, "It is funny. You guys aren't doing it funny," and they were like, "Okay." And finally,
it's your fault that you're not funny enough, Nick. Hello.
And then it finally wrote, so it just wrote itself out.
Yes.
And then you have somebody come in, if you ever, Morgan Janice was my dramaturg for everything. I was with her since I was 25. She started as my agent, and she became my dramaturg and my manager. She passed away recently.
Oh,
and
sorry.
So, yeah, it was very difficult. So, she was the one white person I trusted with my work.
Yeah, love.
Because
you need one. You need one. You need at least one.
But also the thing is, what she didn't see, and I'd like to talk about this too, is that I do theater. And I think sometimes we get into this whole thing, what is specific with what's native theater. And my thing is, why are we limiting ourselves? Why can't we say we are doing theater? We are artists.
Yes.
We are artists, and we are working, and we're trying to tell a story, and we happen to be native.
Exactly.
And to ghetto wise and say, we just do native theater. Yes, we have a voice, but what does that mean, right? How do you do that work? How do you do that work where you're telling your story, where everybody understands it? And not everyone's going to get your stuff. I mean, that's the bottom line. Not people, hate other, people don't like everything. It's like, that's just the way it is. But if you're writing for yourself and you're writing from your core of your soul, whatever that artistic endeavor is, whatever it is, and you're native, you're talking about the human experience.
Yes.
That primal human experience who gives birth and dies.
Yeah.
And what happens in between, and the culture you're brought up with. And then you get into your trauma, and then you get into your inherited trauma. And what does that mean? And then you say, wow, and then someone will say to you, wow, I'm Korean, and I never, this sounds such like a similar, it's not the same, but it's similar, and that is what I am interested in. I'm not interested in, let's go over here and I have to go and, we'll need some more wampum. I could care less.
I love I love in Don't Feed the Indians, a Divine Comedy Pageant.
Yes.
When the producer or the director of the Broadway show, when the kids are auditioning, she's like, well, give me and your accent is amazing, by the way. Oh, you're Indian or you're Native. Okay, give us a Native song, right? Like, that's how sometimes people see it. It's like, oh, you're Native. Okay, give us a Native monologue. Everything has to be like what you were just saying about wampum. It doesn't have to be that. It's like the tokenism of, what happens to us sometimes. And, even like getting hired for certain brands, they they want to see on paper, oh, okay, is she a woman of color? Okay, she's Indian, she's Native American. Oh, good, that'll look good. So they can check off boxes.
Yes.
And
it happens all the time. And
it does.
Think, well, I mean, look, we want to get into the door and we want to sit at the table.
Totally.
Right?
And
I want to do more than sit at the table. I want to have my own table.
Yes, we want our own table.
And then one thing that Morgan said one time, someone said, and just a straight up white woman, Morgan Janice was, and someone said to her, don't you want to be invited to the party? She says, no, we should be the party.
Yes, we are the party.
You guys are the party.
Yes.
And I said, wow, that is a really good assessment.
Yes.
And it's very true, because if you're always constantly wanting to be invited to the party, then you sometimes you just become a tattered debutante.
Exactly. Struggling to get into on the guest list.
Yes.
That's why I loved Indigenous New York Fashion Week, because it was like, you know what? We're throwing the damn thing ourselves. Our community from all over Turtle Island,
that's sovereignty.
North and South flew themselves here to participate in our little, the first inaugural in New York City.
Yes.
So
that's
that
sovereignty.
Was it.
Yes. That is sovereignty. That's sovereignty at its best level. And that's how we kind of, things are changing. Things are really changing
so
in this country.
they are changing. Yeah, things are changing. They are wild right now. Mm-hmm. But there's more Indigenous representation out here in the media. Mm-hmm. Where would you like to see it go? Like, what do you want?
I wanted to see, I don't want us to be these, we're always these little mystic creatures that, that come in and we say good things and we're doing this. I want the world to see us as
we're spiritual. And
we're spiritual. And
we're
it's
good
hard.
all the time. And we're like, yeah,
and I'm tired of it.
But we're complete. We're complete whole people with dark sides and light sides, and we're just humans. Yes.
That's what I want to see. I want to see a commercial, and this has to do with capitalism and economies and statistics and stuff. But we are, and we have to remember that we are consumers in this country. Native people are consumers, and we have to start thinking like that, because that's the only way people are going to listen, especially in this country, because it's so built on consumerism and capitalism.
Exactly.
And so if we are consumers, then we have power in that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I want to see, this is what I really want to see. Why can't commercials have at a Tide commercial, a Native family?
Yeah.
And put some turquoise on, but a native, native actors, a little kid. Oh, dad. Oh, the Tide. Oh, this is my powwow outfit. Oh, didn't make the jingle dress. Whatever it ran. I don't know, but something like that. The normalization of that, and I would like to see us not fighting to get in these doors so much, and and us but we, there's no way around it. Being Native,
well, there is a way around it, and the way is that we need more of us everywhere. Mm-hmm. We need more writers, directors, actors, doctors, therapists. I mean, we just need, because we are such a minority and so, lowly represented in every source. But we need to be in those doors and in those rooms to pitch the Tide commercial.
Yes.
We're not in those, rooms. We need to get there,
We have to really seriously talk and talk about craft. And with me, with this, and I say this all the time, okay, you get into the room.
Yes.
You need to back it up.
Right. Exactly.
You have to have the craft. You have to have a dedication to this. You have to, there are downsides to theater, but if you love it, you do it. Nothing comes with, our traditional ways tell us nothing comes with the good and the bad. It's, there's good that comes with the bad comes, it's not. And sometimes we're always so ready to only talk about the joy, but joy is fleeting. And we have to talk about the ugliness in the mirror.
Yes.
And if we're not willing to talk about
that.
You're
such a drama. You are an actress. You are such an actor. And that's what I love, because it's so true. The happiness, the sadness, it all belongs together.
Yes, it's not one way.
Yeah.
And, and the thing is, I'm very interested in how do we talk about the human experience, us as Native peoples. That is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
The family dynamics, the dysfunctional family dynamics is funny, but it's
Hilarious.
also hurtful because pain and comedy are one of the same.
Yes. They, oh
You
my
know,
God.
and with Native people, that's all we got. Sometimes is our humor. It's, you go into some of these places and you have to laugh. I was at the airport. Me and my daughter started fighting. Nick looks at me and says, "You gotta laugh. You can't."
Yeah, I mean, come on.
You can't take this seriously. This is crazy.
I want to give people advice from you. What would you give to someone who's trying to make it in the arts, make it into Broadway, acting, playwright? What advice? I mean, you kind of like know your craft, kind of like. What would you
Study, know
Everything.
your craft, study, read, know your craft. You have to. And I say this to my students when I was a professor, was an assistant professor. I always said, I get it. We're at a university, an institution. These are Native students. I get it. This is white man. Believe you, I get it.
Yeah.
This can be quite overwhelming in this institution.
Yeah.
But listen to me. What you do here is you got selected to be at this institution. Learn all that they have to teach you. And if you can't, you go back to your community and you say, this is what's going down. This is what's happening. And I'm bringing this to you. And this is how we have to talk about it. And then turn around. But I said, because that is a movement. That's revolution. When you go back to your communities and saying, this is what's going down. Know your enemy, man. Read the Shakespeare, read your Beckett, read all of those things. Will they agree with you? Of course not. Are they racist? Of course they are. Are they sexist? Of course they are. But what can you do if you can take those things and throw it on its ear?
Yes.
And then I used to say, I see that you want to change. You want to change this paradigm. I said, but understand this, that if you went to John Hopkins as ordinary Joe Schmo and you said, I have a heart transplant, you could be right. I studied this heart transplant. I want to do this heart. And they'll say, where'd you go to school? So, well, no, I didn't go to school to study this. They'll be like, get out of here.
What the fuck are you doing?
And it has to be the same thing
Yeah.
with this craft, it's, and you can't really teach someone to be a writer. You can't really teach someone to be a comedian. Either you're funny or you're not. Either you
Right.
love to write or you don't. Right?
Right.
With acting, there's a craft to it. With directing, there's a craft to it. Right?
Yeah.
And those things, and whatever turns you on, man, study it. What keeps you up at night? I know what keeps me up at night. Like what turns you on?
Yeah.
Because, maybe your life is you're interested in theater, but you don't want to be on stage, you don't write. Maybe it's in design.
Right.
Maybe, we have a lot of seamstresses who don't want to do who want to do runway shows and want to do fashion. You can make a living on Broadway.
Oh, yeah.
You can make a living as an
seamstresses. They're on set all the time.
You can make a living as doing makeup artists.
Yeah.
It's all those things. Like a lot of these things come from powwow culture too. A lot of us come from powwow culture.
Yeah.
A lot of us come from that of performance. So take that and jump off from it if you want to. I'm not telling anyone how to live, man.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, take that. Take that and like what turns you on? If you like helping people and you want to do tech stuff and you want to become a stage manager, you can go to school for theater and not be an actor and not be a playwright. You can go be a seamstress, makeup artist. You can go as a stage manager. You can go as a lighting designer. So those are the things that we need, right? Not everyone's an actor.
No.
Not everyone's a playwright.
No.
Not everyone can sing. Not everyone can dance. But, you see a lot of times that what I see falling through the cracks is sometimes our people don't realize that you can make a living doing these things that you're very gifted and good at. And they'll teach you this craft.
Yeah.
And you can work anywhere.
Yeah. Yes.
That's my advice. That's really my advice.
That's so great because it is when kids start out young, and when I was starting out doing hair and getting into fashion when I was young and 14 years old, I, was absorbing and reading and devouring magazines and books and art books and fashion photographer, photography books.
Yeah.
And I feel like that helped me set up for now. I still reference some of those old photos from when I first started looking at them, and when you're young and 14 and 15. And now I'm working with those photographers whose books I used to look at. Like, I'm working with them now from when I was like in 15 years old. And so for a hairstylist, makeup artist, anyone creative, like knowing those references are so good. So it's the same as like a director or an actor to know, a certain treatment or a scene or
a movie, whatever it is,
that, like, there's so much, like, you go deep dive into that.
Whatever you want to do, Someone was talking about Vogue magazine, my daughter, and I said, the thing is there's a line in The Devil Wears Prada when he says, "This is more than a magazine." And I said, I felt that way. They were like, really? I said, being a teenager on the res, man, you sit there and you get the Vogue magazine, and it's like, it opens up this world to you. Like, oh my, even though I came from New York, when I lived, you're like, oh, there's more out there.
Yeah.
And this is the way,
definitely.
There's so it's all those type of things,
It is weird because Vogue magazine is so true. And like I said, when growing up, I mean, for me, it was like escapism.
It's escapism.
Like Wichita, Kansas in school, and, seeing these beautiful, strong women that were, the supermodels in the 90s.
Supermodels.
And then they were gorgeous in their hair. So I saw them. I was like, oh, this is kind of what is it? And then, just the art, the drama of it, the photography in black and white, and like started kind of shaping my eye. But it was a whole world. And that's where I was like, ooh, I want to do that.
And then you have mentors and people who take you in.
It's true. When people see the work that you put into it, and that's what happened to me at Bumble, as the owner of Bumble, Michael Gordon, saw how nerdy I was and like obsessed with, I would take Polaroids of all my models that I would come to practice on, and I made a book out of them, and he was so into that and would, tell other assistants, oh, see what Amy's doing, like you should do that. And then that's how he invited me to my first photo shoot, and then he invited me to assist my mentor, and then it opened all those doors because he saw that I was like a yes girl, yes to everything. I didn't care if I was getting paid. I just wanted to be in those situations, in those photo shoots, in those opportunities. And that's how it kind of happens, just saying yes to things.
I mean, it's
the universe will help you.
Yes.
The universe will always conspire. Like they say in The Alchemist, will conspire to help you achieve your dreams.
Yeah. I mean, there are ancestors. We're here in this room because we had ancestors 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, who prayed for us to be here.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that.
Yes.
I truly believe that.
100%.
And it's hard. And it's not easy being Native. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
We have a belief system, and we have a belief system that we have to believe in, and we not have to, but we believe in this. And it's something we carry every day. We don't just do it on Sunday or once in a while. This is 7 days a week, how we think, how we look at the world, how we look at everything, not in these boxy ways, how we look at things in these circular ways. And it's
because
hard.
we feel so much more.
And we're all interrelated into those circles. That's why health, that's why water rights, that's why treaty rights, missing indigenous women, that's why theater, that's why environmental. They're all related in some sort of way. And you have to kind of I believe, you have to look at that. You have to say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're like, this is what they're telling me. But then you don't want to get, and I really feel this too, you don't want to be extracted from a community either. Yeah. And that's really important to me. And how I deal with it, when someone tells me a story or something, I always ask permission. I say, can I have this story? And sometimes they say, yeah, you can have that. I say, this is so when someone says to me, where'd you get that story? I name that person. Right. And I say this, and I say, can I mention you? It's the same way when you're given
very
a
respectful.
song.
Yes.
And my husband did teach me that. It's like when you're given a song, you know,
Yeah.
that person gave me this song. And if someone questions you, you say, so-and-so, what Pepper gave me the song.
Yeah.
They gave me permission to sing this song. And you have to say, why are you able to do this? Because so-and-so said I can do, they gave me permission. You know what I mean? Yell at them.
Yeah.
You know, yell at them, not me. I was given this.
Yeah.
So I think that is really important. And if we talk about, you know, prior and informed consent, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
And that's really important, because if we're going to talk about oil, you know, if we're going to talk about extractions from our communities, let's talk about cultural extraction too.
Exactly.
And we can't do it to each other as much.
Yeah.
But we can, you know, we do, you know, we try not to do it to
Right.
each other. But we're human beings who make mistakes, and we're human beings who do, you know, for people
And not
to
everyone
think-
is taught the same.
No.
And so there's that. And but we are so blessed. I mean, I feel blessed and lucky to have my ways. And like, I feel like because I am who I am today, because I grew up in my community back home and always go home, and I'm very lucky to have our ways.
And nothing, you know, during times of crisis or chaos, those ways do help.
Oh my God,
you know,
yes.
you have to really, like when someone passes away,
Yeah.
for example, you know, because I'm a widow.
Yeah.
And when my husband passed, you really have to rely on those ways.
Yeah.
And it's really like you have to, and you say, why isn't this happening? Or why is this happening? You have to really realize that.
Yeah.
You have to really realize that. And that's one of the things, too, is the future of what I'm working on, too,
Yeah.
is like I'm writing this article for HowlRound, and it's mostly about how does one create within their grief.
Right. Wait, what is HowlRound?
HowlRound is a platform that is used. It's like this, but they do live streaming.
Okay.
They do a lot of podcasts. I'm part of that community because of the Mellon Foundation, and I have to
cool.
do so many of them. And I decided to write an article, which I haven't done for a while. And, you know, writing an article is how does one create within the chaos?
Right.
And how does one create within grief? And what does that mean? You know, and how did I get through it? How does grief is so personal. What is, you know, grief is different things for different people. And one of the things that you do notice, what I did notice, and I put this in a lot of TP Tales too, is that when someone dies in your family, like when my aunt died, and I knew she was slowly dying and she was older, the way to describe it is a slowly creaking of a door that's closing, and then it shuts.
Yeah.
And it's an ease through. But when someone is taken away so quickly, it's right, it's done. And you're at that door, and it's a glass door, and you see that abyss. You're very close to the other side, but the door has no handle.
Yeah.
And so that is how I approach it, like knowing how close you are to that.
Right. That's
And
so
how-
descriptive.
You know, how
And amazing.
and how close you are to that. And
Yeah.
if that's the one thing I can get from the death of someone who I loved, if you can get through that, how do you get through that and understand that you came through this other side of the abyss? You're looking at the abyss. So what is your work? What is my work? And I feel that my work is directing and writing, and that is what I do, because I can't describe, I mean, of course I'm an actress, but I'm an actress by default because I want to do my stuff. But
like no one can do it like me.
No one can do it like me.
No, it's true.
But I write plays, you know, like, you know, how do we talk about this? How do we
Yeah.
talk about grief? People, like a lot of native people, you know, sometimes aren't talking about grief. How do we talk about it?
Yeah.
Because it is in our teachings on how do we deal with that. And we're here on this side, on this plane. Because us as humans, we're taught, we have faults. Creator made us with faults, right? On purpose. We are not, we make mistakes. We're not immortal beings. But when you're on that other side, they're having a different life. And, you know, and you have to believe that. You have to really believe that they are on the other side, and you can call them when you need to. Right.
Yeah.
And but what I found was the creative process for me was extremely healing.
Wow.
was extremely healing. And that doesn't happen to a lot of people. I did write 4 plays,
Amazing.
2 about one about, almost, I wrote 3 Feast of Ghosts, Teepee Tales, and then the Hamlet Project. And I have this new play I'm playing with right now, and it's called Love Letters, but I'm not sure what exactly that is yet. I know it's about Indigenous love and an apartment and love letters.
Love.
It's about love. And then I have this other play called Two Women, and it's about imprisonment of Native women in jail who are activists.
Oh my God, love.
So that's kind of, those are the 2
cooking.
things that are in. Yeah, I'm cooking.
You're cooking.
I'm cooking. We'll see if I get it all. I need money. If anyone's listening to this,
Give us money, please. Give us money.
give us money so I can do this. I can do this shit.
Melon, give us more. Give us more. Can you re-up the foundation?
No,
the grant.
That's it. I'm done. You're supposed to be doing stuff. No. I'm trying to figure out what is the next step because Safe Harbors. We're really trying to figure out what is community work within this nonprofit world that we're working in, and within the theater world, because we do theater, but the thing is how do you make it do we start train? I'm very interested in training younger people.
Yeah.
I can't be doing this forever. Training younger people who are interested in this, and then writing the plays, having people in it, and collaborating. And me and Nick and Josephine have become these collaborators because of COVID, and also we enjoy working with each other. Yeah. Right. And so we're always okay, how do we do that?
So Josephine grew up with you.
Yes.
You grew up with your mom as a playwright. How was it for you growing up with your mom? Were you ever a collaborator with her, writing or?
Oh yes, I've done. She's actually my mentor.
I love.
See, people really don't know that.
Now, are you Josie's mentor? Was it just picked up?
Would you say I'm Josephine's mentor?
With Josie, did she just kind of?
Well, all of us kind of. Her dad was, Nick was.
I mean, she's a Libra, so we love showbiz. Libra.
Yes, they do.
So we're you got the perfect daughter.
At one point, I said to myself, "Oh, you got to find your own mentors."
Yeah.
I can't always be here. You know what I mean? You gotta cut the strings sometimes.
Yeah.
You gotta say, it's bad enough we live with each other.
It's true.
But
you do have to you have to
let them make their mistakes.
Yes.
And you have to not make their mistakes, go on their own way and figure it out. And
have other perspectives and other people, editing your
and that's
shows.
The thing too, what I said to her too is that understanding that you need to figure out what you want to do. I know what I want you to do.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I know what I want you to do as a mom.
Yeah.
But you have to figure out what you want to do. And she loves to sing, and she loves to produce, and she loves to write.
Yes.
And so that's kind of, and we always, but she had other mentors too. There's sometimes a parent could only do so much.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's important, that everyone has their own mentors. I mean, even I had, 2 other major mentors in my life.
Yeah.
Besides my mother when I left.
Yeah.
You need somebody, they give your job, I believe, as a mom especially, is to give them the, what is it? The source, the core.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? The core. And you have to really believe that you gave them these things to go out into the world.
The fundamental.
Yes. Whatever it is, to be a good person. I graduated from college, and I had all these mentors and everything. And then my family asked me to go on tour with them. This is before they asked me. I remember sitting down with my aunts and then sitting down with my mother, and they were naming all kinds of stuff. And they said, okay, you don't know what we're talking about, and you have this degree, right? You need to now do graduate work.
Wow.
And you need to study.
Yeah.
You want to be an actress, you need to study with these people.
Yeah.
And you have to do graduate studies. And so when I went on tour with them, it was really an education on acting and theater itself. On the level. When you're in college, you are exploring. You're
Yeah.
exploring your craft and what I can do, and you're making mistakes, and you're big mouthed, and all
Yeah.
of that stuff.
Your ego.
Your
like,
ego and
yeah,
everything. And
I'm good at this.
And I was
Yeah.
just talking to somebody. I said, when I was in college, I remember John Fraser saying to John Fraser, "Oh, I'm cast every year. I'm getting burnt out and everything." And he looked at me. He said, "When you graduate here, you're gonna be like an actor, like everybody else."
Yeah.
I would take advantage of this.
Yeah.
And you're going to be in equity, and people of color don't work that much. So that's why I cast you so much. And, you have to really think about these things because you want to be, and I remember complaining, "Oh God, I've been in this theater all day." And he looked at me and he was like, "And if you're lucky, you spend your life here." And there's truth to that.
That's a great soundbite.
That
is.
So with when I was
I mean,
on
the truth
road
that
with
is
them,
that is the ugly truth about being a brown Black person working trying to work in Broadway,
Yes.
in the arts,
in general.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
I think we're the door's opening.
The door's opening.
We're having, but we need more. Like I want to see more Indigenous women's stories being told from
their point of
from
view.
our
Yeah.
from our vibe, from our energy. The male dominated thing is still happening, but
and
here
it
and
takes
there
allies, and it takes allies
does.
to change. It takes Native male allies,
Yes.
who are going to turn around and say, "Okay, like you don't think this is messed up? That
Yeah.
you talk this way to this woman.
Yeah.
We need allies within our fields, the Latino theater community, the Black theater community, the Arab theater community. We need these allies so we can be collective together and tell our story too. So we don't have to. One of the main things that how we die is stress. We have so much stress because we take on every Native person does this. I've seen that like a lot of our political people, they die very young from stress level diseases. And you have to really say to yourself when you get older, do I want to do this?
Yeah.
No, I want to do this. And once you get into menopause, you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I'm there. I think I'm there. I'm
think
getting
you're
there.
there?
I'm getting there.
Well, I just had myself a little flash,
I'm
as you
done.
saw.
I'm done. Yeah. No, it's also hot in here.
But well, now I'm having these spins. But
we have to turn the air off for the sound. It's annoying.
So anyway, I mean,
But yes.
when you hit menopause, you're done.
Yeah. No, you're
done with bullshit.
Done. That's why I feel like I understand my mother and other women that I was like, oh, why are they so mean? I'm like, oh, because now I feel.
And the rage, menopausal rage can make you, and you have to really sit back and think about it, and like go to therapy.
Well, and that's the thing.
All of
we
that.
don't know science and the medical field. They're just now starting to be like, oh, let's kind of see what's happening with women and their hormones and.
But where is it coming
what is it
from?
What is
why
this
is a
called?
woman screaming at everybody when she used to never say anything, but they'll turn around and say, why is this woman screaming about everybody in the kitchen and asking when dinner's done? Dinner's not going to be done. I saw it on Dr. Oz. I was like, the woman is stressed. Obviously, she's making dinner and has a job, and you're bothering her and you say she needs to be put on medication because she's yelling?
Yeah.
Come
it's
on.
like the old days when they like take her to shock therapy.
Yes.
Like take her to the ward.
Or they used to dunk women in the cold water.
I mean, the torment that women have gone through, and we have to persevere.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot to be said about that too, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about women of color, and I've been saying this a lot, how women of color in general have have jobs, and how they sometimes they make $100,000 less than a man.
Oh yeah.
In these fields. Male artistic directors make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Women artistic directors are expecting to do more and make less. And I think that's something, I don't know if we could talk about that. I don't know if that will change right now in where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we're at with everything. But I think that is something to think about too.
Oh,
That's
definitely.
And our health issues and
equal pay.
Equal pay. We have to start talking about equal pay. Equal pay
menopause, equal pay.
That's a short story.
Oh,
Menopause and equal pay.
Girl, yeah, there we go. The next story. Okay, thank you for your time. Now, you kind of said what's next for you.
Well, what's next is the festival.
Okay, yes.
It's
Tell
in
me.
front of La Mama. It's called Feast of Ghosts. There are 3 pieces in it, and we are.
Is this
part
the
of it.
projection?
The
You do a
we're
projection
doing-
outside?
Yes.
Yes.
We're doing the projection of all of our pieces. I directed a piece. Nick Billy's piece is in there. Josephine's piece is in there. My husband's piece is in there.
Amazing.
So he opens it. And then we're going to do a piece of street theater that has to do with land acknowledgments and has to do with telling the story. There's a Shinnecock story about how people died on a boat. And they were made to stay on the boat because they, it's called the whaling story. They were whaling people of Shinnecock, and I kind of want to dedicate that to my family in Shinnecock because I have
Amazing.
I have a lot of relatives in Shinnecock, and I want to dedicate to them to tell them that Manhattan itself, Mannahatta.
Yeah.
Mannahatta itself,
Yeah.
itself was a meeting place.
Yes.
With all these different tribes and these territories. So I kind of don't want to say one tribe was here.
Yeah.
There are many tribes, many encampments.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're doing. And then.
And that's in November.
That's November 6th to the 8th.
Okay.
And then I am working on a piece called The Center, which is loosely based on Hamlet. And we don't do the text of Hamlet or whatever. It's just like taking our story. I mean, it's written, there's a lot of poetic writing in it, but it is about death, and it's about what happens when a prominent figure dies, and what's the juxtaposition of community, and what do we do for power, and what does that power mean? And, where someone sits at a community table, like, what does that mean, and how do we fight about it? But who's going, and when, granting and monies, and how we can be corrupt, and how you find that out. And that's what that's what this piece is about, because basically. And
now, is this going to be at La Mama?
La Mama, yes. That was part of the development. I'll read it at La Mama probably in January.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to do a stage reading of it, and then that's the other thing I'm working on in my books, and I'm finishing those up. So those are the things, and then the article of me really talking about how the grief process and to create a profit. How does one do that? And in the midst of chaos. So.
Oh my God. Wow. Thank you so much. You are so inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
I am so honored that you could come on and share everything. I could listen to you all day, but I want to let you go. You're on Instagram, you're on Facebook.
Am I on Instagram? I know I'm on Facebook. Instagram.
You're on Facebook.
I don't know how to do
Safe
Instagram.
Harbors.
Safe Harbors, New York City.
Safe Harbors, New York City. La Mama, November 6th through the 8th.
Yes, and we're going to have a community feast on the 8th.
Oh, yes. Amazing.
Yes, and we'll get to talk about, the shadow work. The piece that will be in there is called Shadow Work, and it's written by Nick Billy and directed by him, but he's not in it. And it started with conversations of what was this world like before the beings came and the shadows. What do shadows do and everything?
Oh, I love.
So that's in that before this. So that's the whole idea of all of this.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Okay.
Oh, we have some good fall programming happening
we do.
here in New York City. A lot goes because of Murielle here, and we are so lucky to have you as our queen of the urban indigenous community.
I try
here.
not to be.
You are the queen, though. I call you the queen. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad you had fun.
Yes, I always have fun when I talk about myself for an hour.
Yeah, right? You know what? People love talking about themselves, and I love to listen to them because, especially you, you're so good.
Oh, well, thank you. So are you. This was fun. You're right.
Good.
She's a great interviewer. Native Barbara Walters. She's very good.
Oh my God, stop. I want to be Oprah.
Oh, Oprah, you want to be Oprah?
Osage Oprah.
You're better than
Osage
that.
Oprah. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Let's Have a Powwow. See you soon, cousins.
Bye.
Murielle was spitting knowledge, wasn't she? The opening song, Bridge and Tunnel Baby, is by Murielle's daughter, Miss Josephine, who you may recognize from my very first episode. In the intro to the song, she samples her father, Kevin Tarrant, who was a powwow singer and prominent community leader here in New York City. He was also Murielle's husband and artistic collaborator whom she knew her entire life. Kevin passed in 2020 and was a devastating loss to community and his family. Murielle went through every emotion Creator gives us and discovered that in order to heal, she needed to keep being creative. Her new piece, Feast of Ghosts, is a result of Murielle exploring the creative process while grieving. For some, this idea may seem impossible, but for Murielle, this is what she does. Thanks for listening.